just explain a little bit, not ideal but ideal conditions, but nonetheless, what is the sort of single standout thing that really impresses you with a Grand Prix car in comparison to an NASCAR?
I think the biggest thing, and you know, I have a background with IndyCar racing, so I'm somewhat familiar with downforce, but not this level of downforce, and I never drove them on a road course. But I think the thing that probably stood out the most was just how incredibly efficient and good the brakes are, and how far you can go. I never got to full potential of what the car was capable of doing in a braking zone, but it's just amazing how far you can charge the corner, and it's easy to see why it's hard for these guys to overtake, because it's not a long distance from the time you get out of the throttle and on the brakes to where you're changing direction. So it gives you a much greater appreciation for how hard it is for these guys to overtake each other, and what that car's actually capable of. I mean, it's just incredible, the technology behind it.
Well, maybe at this point we'll throw it open to the floor, and if I can ask the members of the national media get their questions in first, but I think we're under pressure of the deadline. So we have some microphones at the back of the room as well for the benefit of everyone being able to deal with questions. So who is first up? You get your hand up, and then maybe we can get a mic to you. The gentleman here on the right hand side. There's someone coming here with a mic, so if you can just...
Joe Manzer, NASCAR.com. Just wondering if you could both, was there any pressure not to wreck the car? I mean, and Tony, did you in particular feel any after he went out and made clean laps?
I don't want to wreck any race car, let alone somebody else's car. It's I don't feel near as guilty about it nowadays when I'm paying the bills on it. If I crash it, I don't have to be responsible to too many people. But knowing that this was the car that Lewis won the World Championship with, that didn't really put a lot of pressure on as much as just you want to enjoy the experience. It's you as a competitor, you want to go out and you want to find the limit, but at the same time you realize that if you make a mistake, the penalty for that mistake is probably going to be pretty large here. So you may back it off a little bit just to enjoy the experience more. But you know, there was never any pressure from our side. You know, we told them this wasn't a car that if he crashed it, don't sweat it, just have fun in it. So and they were very much the same way. They didn't tell me not to worry about it, but at the same time, they never said, please don't crash our race car today.
Maybe the gentleman right at the back of the room there. We're going to mic.
Woody King with MRN. For Tony, what did you think of the long course? And for Lewis, what did you think of the weight of the stock car?
Well, the weight, I was trying to calculate the weight before, because you do everything in pounds, so you do it in kilos. And it's I think I've measured it, I think it's 3 times the weight of a Formula 1 car. But it actually doesn't feel that heavy. I think the brakes were surprisingly very, very good. Tony was telling me where they usually brake in the drive. And I don't think I was braking too far away from it with the damp conditions. I was braking early thinking, you know, this car's not going to stop, but in actual fact I could brake quite a lot later. So, you know, and whilst on the TV it looks like I'm drifting all the time, I didn't feel like I was always drifting in the car. I felt it had quite a stable rear end, so I was able to pick up the power, and the grip was quite cool, quite good through all the corners.
I enjoyed the long course. That's you know, I'd never been around it till today, and I told Brett Bodine when we got out of the car after our setup runs that I would really, I would like the opportunity to see us have a shot at running the long course. I think it would create more passing opportunities for sure, and like Lewis said, it's just such a historic racetrack, and there are some really cool corners down there that we don't get a shot to run on a Cup weekend.
Tony, Tom Jensen from Speed.com. On a scale of 1 to 100, how much were you on it? Were you at like 75% of the car's limit, 95% of the car's limit? And if you were going to do this full time, how long would it take you to get to the point where you were fully up to speed on it?
Well, the first thing I'd have to do is lose about 25 pounds right off the bat. I would actually have to go and work out in a gym again. But what I think the limit is probably, it's the reality of it's probably further than what I still imagine it is. Like I said, I know I did not reach the potential of what that car is capable of doing. But you know, like I said, you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to find out that you're 5% over the limit and put yourself in a bad spot. But it is incredible how well these cars handle, and obviously being out on rain tires, they're a real grippy tire, and if you had to run them more than 3 or 4 laps, you probably would have a handful, but just had a ton of grip, and I don't know, I would say I was running probably 80 to 85% of what my potential, or what I think my potential would have been. Now the car was probably 20% more than that on top of it, so you definitely would have to learn. I mean, there's no way that you're just going to jump in one of these cars and get to the caliber of what Lewis can do.
Claire V. Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. What really stood out is the pure joy of both of you. Lewis taking pictures and the engineers showing off their cars. And I wonder, now that you've come back in, if you, as you watch each other race, now that you've been in the cars, have questions for each other in retrospect after having gone out on the cars, or a reflection or a question of the other driver.
Yeah, I guarantee it's going to take a couple days for all of what just happened in a short amount of time to all sink in, and it's going to create a lot of questions of, so how do you do this? This is what I felt, but I know I need to do it different. So how do you do it different? So I'm sure I'm going to start wearing his email out and have questions about what to do and how we should have done it different. And the cool thing is, maybe I can talk him into showing me the telemetry and seeing, or comparing our laps and seeing how much was actually different. And I think that's an advantage that we'll both have, being able to go back and look at the telemetry and see how we really did things different.
What about you, Lou?
I just feel like a kid today. It's just good to be able to be a kid again. It's like when we used to go go-karting, we used to have so much fun. And whilst driving a Formula 1 car is very fun, it's the competitiveness, the competitive side of it's so serious. As where today, I just was able to I think after even also such a tough weekend, I was already still also feeling the tough weekend this morning. But as the excitement built up, and when I got in the car and once I got out, I completely forgot about last weekend. And I was just saying to Tony, it would be quite cool if, in the olden days they used to have drivers who were able to do different races in different classes week after week. And I said it would be neat if we wanted to come and drive Formula 1 for a weekend and see how it went, and then vice versa. But I know that's not possible nowadays, but that would really be cool.
Hello, Tony. Hello, Lewis. We came from Brazil to this event, and I would like to ask one question for each one. I will change a little bit the subject. Tony, about NASCAR and foreign drivers, we've been having a lot of foreign drivers in the last couple of years. We have Montoya and now Marcos Ambrose, and we have Brazilians racing in the other series. Nelson Piquet Jr. is in the nationwide. How do you see that? Do you think Brazilians maybe can have a little bit of success in the Sprint Cup, and maybe you hire one someday? And Lewis, my question for you is about something that many people talk about in Brazil, is that the fact that you are the driver who best resembles Ayrton Senna's style since he passed away. How do you think about the similarities that you have in your career, the way you drive and also the way you live? He was also a driver who was often labeled as too aggressive, but that's maybe why he became so charismatic and such a big number of fans. So I'd like to talk about a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm good friends with Juan, and I like talking to him about what we did in IndyCar racing and his stint in Formula 1, and he's a great competitor in the Cup Series. He's my driver on our team they had a little run-in earlier this year, which kind of put me in a bad spot because I'm friends with both of them, but it's fun to watch guys like him. It's like I told people, we had him at our charity dirt race a couple of years ago, and he'd never been on a dirt track, he'd never driven that type of race car, and to watch him adapt to that type of car so quickly, it shows that there's great race car drivers around the world. It's just a matter of where do they want to be and do they have opportunities. And seeing Nelson get to run in the truck series now, there are opportunities out there, and guys like Juan and Nelson being able to have the success that they're having will create more opportunities for other foreign drivers to come in the series. And the great thing is that our sport's evolved so much over the last 15, 20 years that it used to be a regional sport in the States, and now it's nationwide and worldwide, and now you're seeing more worldwide class drivers come into the sport too. So I think NASCAR welcomes everybody with open arms.
I think, well, firstly to your question, I mean, I grew up a huge fan of Ayrton's, so even from the very, very first time I started watching Formula 1 and seeing his style, the way he approached things and the things that he went through, I would it definitely does seem that I have experienced similar situations to him, but I think I watched a lot of the video. I had so many videos of his that I used to watch, and I used to literally study it when I get home from school. Straight away put that on, and I just see how he approached things, how he drove. So maybe just subconsciously by watching him, I naturally have progressed to be an aggressive driver as he was, and I feel very privileged when people put my name in the same sentence as his. I feel very honoured actually, and I'll never say that myself, but he was the best driver of all time, I think, and I always aspire to be like him and emulate, do something similar to what he had done in the sport. So I'll try to continue doing it.
Question to both of you. You were speaking, Lewis, about the seriousness of Formula One. Do you think NASCAR could bring something in Formula One to make it more fun and more popular?
Well, I wanted to ask Tony how serious it is in your business, and how these are questions that I'm going to be asking. I mean, for us, there's a certain format of a Grand Prix weekends, as you know, and I've not been to a NASCAR race, but I would love to go and have a look and just get a feel and sense of. But I'm sure around the world there's things that we can all learn from each other, and I'm certain there's things in NASCAR that we have in Formula 1 that they could learn from us and vice versa. But I'm pretty sure that the guys at the top who are running both sports have looked into that already. So.
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't matter what form of racing you're involved in. When you're at the top level of it, it's very competitive, and it's that way on a Cup weekend. You can tell by watching the coverage on TV that the Formula 1 weekends are stressful, the IndyCar weekends are stressful. No matter what division of racing you're in, when you're at that top level of each division, it is very competitive. It's very serious. They don't pay us a lot of money to come have fun. They pay us to come in and work and do a good job and compete and try to do the best we can. So anytime that you're giving 100% at anything, it doesn't mean you still can't have fun, but it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of pressure and stress, and that's what makes it so gratifying when you have a good weekend and you are successful.
Quick one, Paul Kaminsky from CBS News for Lewis and Tony. Lewis, yours first. Did you ever think when you got into a Formula 1 car you would be driving on a circuit like Watkins Glen, where a lot of the history of the sport has been made? And Tony, if he can arrange it during GP time next year, would you put him in a Prelude? Could you get him on that late model car for that?
No, that's what I was saying. I think firstly, I only ever dreamed of being in a Formula 1 racing driver. So I feel, I'm one of the very fortunate few that get to do such great events, especially like this. These are the perks of the job when you get to come. So we're very grateful for Mobil for bringing us down here. But I never in a million years thought I'd get to have a chance driving one of the NASCARs. I mean, it is pretty cool. It's definitely one of the coolest things, probably the coolest thing I've done outside of racing Formula 1.
And F1 cars on a track that means so much history in this sport.
Absolutely. I mean, what was it? Last time was it 80
and
1980? Yeah. And we got Fittipaldi, I think, won it for our team, and I think James Hunt also. Yeah.
Smoke?
Yeah, if he wants to come run the Prelude next year, I will personally pay to build him a brand new car to get him there. So if he wants it, he's got it. We'll have him a brand new one sitting there ready to go.
Any other questions?
Lewis, I know your contract comes up sometime shortly, and you obviously got a taste of something that you could do. And you also spoke earlier about how you admire Ayrton Senna, who built his reputation at McLaren, but eventually left to go to Williams. Could we see you look to either going to a Red Bull or coming to drive for Stewart Haas, when your contract's up at the end of next year?
Well, I think for NASCAR, I think that's, yeah, I mean, I've grown up wanting to be Formula 1 World Champion, and I've definitely not achieved all that I want to there, so I'll definitely be spending as much time there as I can until I do achieve what I've always wanted to do. And in terms of where I am, I'm again just very fortunate to be a part of McLaren. It's one of the best teams there. Again, with great history, and we've got now a car which is capable of winning, as my teammate showed at the weekend, and we are the only other team that has won Grand Prix this year. And so I don't see why you would particularly want to move when you have the most competitive car. So as long as we have the car that can do the job, then there'll be no reason to leave.
Did you meet with Christian Horner this weekend?
Well, I know all the managers, or the bosses. I know lots of people in all the teams. So I know Stefano Di Natale, and we chat all the time, and I know Hal, we chat all the time. I know Christian. When I was going from Formula 3 to GP2, I had a meeting with Christian when he was running Red Bull team back in 2000, I think it was. So, but I know everyone, so I've spoken to a lot of people during my head.
Anyone? Anyone there with the rather optimistic Hawaiian shirt?
I wish I was there right now.
Now you know what we have to go through on the weekends.
What are those nice jackets you guys are wearing? Tony, early on the track was wet. Did it ever get raceable? And for Lewis, Tony said he was about 80% maybe. What were you percentage-wise on his car when you were in it?
I'll be honest, I was glad to see it drying off. It was a little sketchy, I thought, in the Cup car in the rain there. But it's the first time we've ever done it, and obviously if we had a chance to go back and work on the car more, we would make it better. But definitely was glad to see that it dried off for Lewis, so we got a better idea of what the car was really like.
You on rain tires?
Yes.
Yeah, I think as Tony was saying before, that when you have opportunities like this, the last thing you want to do is put the car in the wall, or you should never take things for granted. So it was just about enjoying yourself out there. So I was probably, I'm sure there's a lot for me to learn in the car, but whenever I get in the car, whether it's a road car, whether it's a rally car, whatever, I always, as racing drivers, we tear it up. We do it's what we love, trying to push it a little bit more each time you approach the corner. So bit by bit, more and more laps, I'm sure we could have got a bit faster, but I think for both of us, it was drying up quite a lot, and we're just saying we should get back out on the sticks.
Excellent. Well, we want to thank you all thank you both, for giving us that demonstration. I would like to thank all members of the media for turning out, of course to Mobile One for making this possible, to Watkins Glen for opening up the racetrack. I think all we should do is give a show our appreciation to these two great champions of motorsport.